Today we're in Dillsburg, Pennsylvania, and we're covering a 2-zone DIY MR.Cool mini split system that's providing heating and cooling in a basement apartment. Now I'm here with Andrew. He's a homeowner. This is his home, and he installed the system by himself with a friend in a couple days. And so today we're going to be covering the top 5 most surprising things that he learned during the install as he went through it.
Yeah, I'm excited to share them. So hopefully you are less surprised and have a smooth install of your MR.Cool DIY system.
Stick around for the 5th tip, the 5th most surprising thing, because it could save you some money. So let's get started. Today we're covering the top most surprising things that you learned about installing and running a MR.Cool mini split system. So do you want to go through those 5 real quick?
Yeah, the first one is how long it takes to install it, what we learned. The second was the hardest thing that we ran into, the roadblock on that. Third would be you got to read the instructions and learning from my mistakes that I made along the way. Fourth one is just how the units perform, especially the decibel level and some of those other things. The 5th one is a cool way to save some money.
So Andrew, if you can walk me through what you designed and how you designed it for this space to be able to provide heating and cooling for this apartment using the mini splits.
Yeah, so this is a separate apartment in our main house. It's in the basement area, but we wanted the HVAC completely separate because it'll have a completely separate person or group living here. We're in a main living space now, so we have a kitchen and dining area and main living room, kind of a little open area here, so we wanted a unit out here. And then tucked right back here is our bedroom and a separate unit in the bedroom if you want it cooler at night, and it's sized a little differently, so just different sizing there. Our bathroom's tucked really in the middle of the house, and because it's surrounded by conditioned space, it didn't need its own unit.
Perfect. Yeah, and then you had a 9,000 in here, as well as a 9,000 in the bedroom. What did you connect it to the outdoor unit?
Yeah, the outdoor unit's 18,000, so it's sitting right outside, and ran a 15-foot and a 35-foot line set to connect up to that.
Yeah, it's a 2-zone 18,000 BTU system, so both those indoor units were able to connect right to that outdoor unit. Since it's a closed space, you don't plan on adding anything to this apartment. You don't really need to account for any future zones, right?
No future expansions.
Awesome.
Planned here.
So Andrew, talk me through how you came up with the design for the mini split and maybe how you considered the line set length to go with the indoor units.
Yeah, I knew I wanted 2 indoor units so I could zone it off a little. But then as I was thinking through, like the line sets come in predetermined lengths because it's a DIY system.
Right.
So you have to measure, especially as you wrap around windows or doors. My original plan was to put the unit here on this wall, but talking with Got Ductless, they were able to walk through kind of 2 considerations. One was the fact that if I put the compressor right outside, I'm going to be coiling a lot.
Right.
You want to minimize those coils.
Yes.
And then also on the inside, if I'm trying to condition this whole space, that moving it over to this wall would actually give me a better spread and help more evenly distribute the heat or the air.
Okay. Definitely.
And so I enjoyed being able to come up with a plan, see what my options were, and then Got Ductless were able to review that and even extend some of the other available options to me that would make a more efficient unit.
Yeah, and so I think when you approached this, you thought 9,000 in this room, this main living space, and 9,000 in the bedroom as well. And we confirmed that with our calculator saying, yep, this is great. This square footage is perfectly fine for the 9,000 in the bedroom. Could have gone less, but MR.Cool's first available is the 9,000. So the sizing was right. And when we looked at the line set length together to make sure they had enough and making sure that you weren't coiling more than you absolutely needed to, that's how we determined the actual indoor unit, the locations for them and where we're actually going to place the compressor as well.
Yeah, outdoor, one of our line sets was exactly the right length. The other one, we had a single coil, and the only thing that probably caused us to have that was the indoor unit. We were locked in where we could put it just based on the windows and the sizing around it.
Yeah, so I think that you did the best that you could with what you had, and I think it turned out to be a good outcome. So the first most surprising thing that you mentioned was it took a little longer than expected. Can you elaborate on that?
Every DIY project I do takes longer than expected.
Isn't that the truth?
Part of it is There's nothing overly complicated here. You have templates, you're drilling holes, it shows you where to drill, you're running your line sets outside to your unit. So it's easy to think this will be knocked out pretty quick. If you had a friend and you really worked hard, you could probably knock it out in a 12-hour day. But really, every piece just adds up on timing. So mounting your indoor units, you have 2 of those to mount, drilling your holes to the outside, even running your line sets. If you're mounting those on cinder block outside, like I did on one wall, you're using tapcons and drilling into that. So
2 different drills.
Everything just adds up as you go through. So in your head, you can see the finished product and you can watch a video on how easy it is to do. It's not that it's complicated, it's that it's just time consuming.
Definitely.
And so setting aside that time to do it and having a plan when you walk through of what you do first, second, so that if you need a break for the night, you have a solid spot to pause.
Yeah, and you used line set covers to cover the actual line sets on the outside. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, those are, they're not hard to do, but you're drilling holes, you're putting the brackets up, you're running line sets through those, and then putting your brackets back over, but you have to cut them down to size when they're running too long. You have bends in. It's just planning out, again, even how you're running those, making sure that you have the right length.
Definitely.
And a lot of planning and time that goes into making sure that you have a good system in the end.
Which part of the process took you the longest, do you think?
The line sets, mounting those on the outside took longer than I thought. It looks pretty simple. You're just screwing some things up, but that took some time.
Definitely.
The thing that makes or break this really is 2 things: having the right tools and having the right plan. And Got Ductless has that plan to walk through with the steps and the tools you need up front. So knowing what you need and knowing what you're going to do is a key for a successful install.
Yeah, MR.Cool provides everything that you need in terms of the steps and the tools, but Got Ductless does instruct and help along the way to make the job a little bit more seamless and easier for you.
Yeah.
Second most surprising thing you mentioned was that the installation can sometimes run into tricky, complex things. For you, you ran into having to drill through cinder block, and you ran into some complications. Can you explain that?
Yeah, drilling through cinder block is never fun, but having the right tool makes it easier. But as they were drilling through, we hit the stud of the cinder block.
Yeah, the rim of the cinder.
Yeah, that vertical piece. So it wasn't just a drill through, it was chiseling and drilling, and it probably took an extra hour just to get that hole in place.
Definitely.
Now, the nice thing, and the thing I'd caution anybody else doing this, is you want to know what's behind your wall when you drill.
Definitely.
And so we had ruled out plumbing behind it, we ruled out electric behind it. I've made that mistake before. So if all I have to complain about is hitting that rim, that's still much easier than what you could drill into. But drilling through the wall, be prepared for what you may drill into.
Did you think it made more of a mess than you thought it would?
Concrete always makes a mess.
Definitely.
But again, having the right tools helps you clean up and stay ahead of it.
Yeah, and if you have the right tools and you have the right materials, as you know with any DIY project, you're saving yourself a couple of trips to the hardware store. So having everything all in one place could definitely save you some time.
The third thing along the way, a piece of advice I'd have, is always read the instructions.
Every advice the man does not want to hear.
That saved us during one piece of the install, and that burned me on another piece. When we got to the outdoor unit, we were hooking the electric up from the indoor unit. My natural inclination would assume that the colors match up. But reading the instructions, I noticed each of them were also labeled ABC, and you had to match based on the letter, not the color. And so you had blacks going to whites or reds or something else. So reading the instructions is key to making sure you do this right. Sometimes what you assume isn't right. Then I also had a freak out moment after we got everything wired up, and I go and I turn the power on and I come in and I get an error code on it. I'm Googling, trying to figure out what the error code was. It's because I didn't open the service ports on the outdoor unit.
That's important.
And very important, but again, reading the instructions will save you a lot of pain and headache and walk you through that plan we talked about earlier for a successful install. The fourth thing, and this was actually a really pleasant surprise, was how loud both the indoor and outdoor units are. So this is a basement apartment I'm finishing. My main living space has a heat pump system for the whole house. and it's a couple decades old, and when that thing fires up, it sounds like a jet engine. You can hear it from the other side of the house. It's super loud. So after I did open the service ports and I go out and I turn it on, I didn't hear it. And I thought it wasn't working. And so I actually approached the outdoor unit and felt the fan blowing right about the time I started to hear it. The outdoor unit's very quiet. Even the indoor units, it's running right now as we're recording. You can feel it blowing. But they just quietly hum in the background about the noise of a refrigerator, which is a really pleasant surprise, having never done a mini split system like this.
Mini splits tend to be quieter. The outdoor units tend to have decibel levels of under 50 or around 50, which compared to like a central air system is typically, that one's around 70 to 80. So much quieter. And the indoor units, the decibel levels are dependent on the fan speed. So if you're setting it on the lowest fan speed, it's going to be obviously much quieter than on the highest fan speed. But yeah, the system is on behind us, and our mics are barely picking it up, I'm assuming. And so, yeah, it's really pleasant when you're indoors and you don't have extra noise they have to deal with. Now, the fifth, most surprising thing that you mentioned was that you saved some money during the process. Can you explain how you did that?
Well, scratch and dent is something available with Got Ductless, and was able to save a significant amount. And there's different grades of scratch and dent, I think. I did a grade A, which the only tell that this was scratch and dent was it didn't arrive in the original packaging. The unit itself was in good. There's no visible cosmetic damage. There was no damage in how it ran, no issues. But being a DIY guy, I love a good deal.
Yeah, that's definitely true. MR.Cool does have different grades of scratch and dent equipment. It's more of a first come, first serve, and also more of a request type of thing. It's not typically publicly sold. At least on Got Ductless it's not. So Andrew messaged us and said, hey, I'd like to get a good deal on some MR.Cool equipment. I don't necessarily care if it's 100% perfectly branded and wrapped. And so we figured out that we could do a good scratch and dent deal for Andrew. The discounts that can be applied towards that equipment can range between 20 and 40% depending on the grade. So, and those grades are dependent on cosmetic damage, whether the boxes are imperfect, they're put into cardboard boxes rather than the original MR.Cool packaging. So if you're looking for equipment and you don't necessarily consider how pretty it comes, consider scratch and dent and reach out to Got Ductless to get a quote to see how much you can save. So let's do a quick recap of the top 5 most surprising thing that Andrew learned as a homeowner when doing this DIY mini splits. So Andrew, what were those 5 again?
It'll take longer than you think. At least took longer than I think. The second one is just be prepared to run into roadblocks. And for us, it was hitting that concrete stud. Third one, read your instructions. Save yourself some pain. The fourth, the pleasant surprise, was just how quiet the units are and how well they perform. And then the fifth one is that there's a way to save money.
So for Andrew, he got grade A equipment, so he was able to save 20%, but it comes at a risk. You don't know what you're getting, per se. So in your case, everything was functional, but nothing was broken, cosmetically it was great. So in this case, you were able to save 20% and it worked out, but it was a risk that you took on.
Well, and that's why I went with grade A rather than B or C, is even though you can save more money, you increase your risk odds in that.
Definitely. Now that we covered the top 5 most surprising things, just wanted to ask you, what was your overall review of installing the MR.Cool DIY system?
Overall, it was actually a good experience. Not knowing what I was walking into, how complex this was. If you've assembled IKEA furniture, this is a project you can probably tackle with the right tools. The line sets are color-coded, the instructions are clear, your wires are clearly labeled. It's just taking the time to do it. And having a friend makes the project more fun and a lot easier, especially as you're lifting and mounting units on the wall. But it's a project that is worth doing, and if you're somebody comfortable tackling DIY stuff, you can do it without any HVAC knowledge.
Awesome. And you're enjoying the systems as right now, and they're working fine?
Yeah, we've had some really cold days this past week, and the units keep up. They perform well, and have been a great addition to our space here.
Awesome. Yeah, and you can control the 2 zones separately. One room can be 62 degrees, while this room here is showing 74 degrees, so there's a lot of flexibility in it as well.
Yeah, you have remotes for each of the rooms, and you can control them with the app on your phone.
Awesome. Well, thank you to Andrew for joining us today, and we're happy that that he's enjoying the MR.Cool system. If you have any questions about how to size the systems, in this particular system is a 9,000 connected to an 18,000 outdoor unit. But if you don't know which sizes to go with, you could always call Got Ductless. That's what we specialize in. We know exactly how to help you when it comes to designing all the line sets and choosing the right systems, choosing the right outdoor unit, and how to plan for future units. So if you have any questions like that, feel free to reach out to us. We'd be happy to help you. So if you like this content and you want to see more ductless mini split content, please feel free to subscribe and like this video, and we'll see you on the next video.